Oh, what's up, guys? This video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to give you a little inside scoop of what I do here as far as my radio station goes. I have been into music, all kinds of different music, since I was born, and been in the radio since I was 10 years old. And so I'm going to give you a little insight of how things work around here. It's going to be kind of fun, and show you what I do here. If those of you that really don't know how it works when you listen to the station 24/7, this is going to show you how I work it. So stick around; it's going to be fun. First of all, I want to tell you the reason I got into music. One of the reasons is even though I've been since forever, I remember listening to it or being a part of it. One of the main reasons is it was an escape for me because growing up in a neighborhood that wasn't very good and going to schools that weren't the greatest, there was a lot of bad things that would happen in the home and in the schools and in the neighborhood and things like that. A lot of bullying and a lot of things that you can't unsee. So it was kind of an escape for me to be a part of something, to dream, to believe in other things. It was almost like going to the movies, like you're losing yourself in another world. And a lot of people in the neighborhood would also be into the records and things like that and crank it up. They were just the love of Don Kirshner's rock concert and seeing Aerosmith on TV for the first time in the early 70s and things like that. You would just lose yourself in the fantasy of all kinds of things that was going on at the time. So that's one of the reasons. Plus, when I was probably 8, I think I was 8 or 9, 1978, is when I had a tutor because I wasn't doing very well in school. And he had this test where if you were one of the best students or you had the highest grade or whatever, then you can have your choice as a prize of either going to McDonald's or going to a recording studio where, they record records and things like that. And I distinctly remember choosing very much so choosing the recording studio, and I remember him driving me a great distance. I can't remember where the studio was, if it was in Ohio or Indiana or wherever it was. For all I know, it could have been in Pennsylvania, but somewhere out there, he took me to a studio where he was going to meet a friend of his named Rick, and Rick was one of the musicians there that was recording, and he was going to help me tour around the studio and show me all kinds of cool things and how the sound booth works and how you can't hear anything through the glass and all that stuff, and just all the equipment and all this cool stuff that they had. And being the fact I was 8 years old, I didn't know a whole lot, and I wish I knew more, and I wish I spent a little more time there for memory purposes. But I remember as he went, the tutor I can't remember his name, he went to the restroom, and I'm sitting there reading a National Geographic magazine. That's all they had there in one of the break rooms or whatever. And he told me, tell Rick that I'm in the restroom. Well, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I flip open a page, and there's pictures of women in Africa, like a tribe, that were nude from the top down. And I remember, 8 years old, I shouldn't be seeing this. I was kind of freaked out by it. And this guy named Rick walks in and notices, and I, flip out and close the magazine real quick, and he asked where the tutor was, and I said he was in the restroom, and he kind of smiled because he knew what I was reading. Even though I wasn't reading it, it was just in there, and I was flipping through the magazine. So he kind of laughed about it, and I remember distinctly he was wearing black. He had jet black hair, and he had sunglasses on. And I don't think he ever took the sunglasses off. But he showed me around the studio and everything else. And I remember asking him, because I was a big Kiss fan at the time, but I remember asking him, you know, Kids and Kiss and stuff like that, the makeup and the comic books, and we're all big into that. But I remember asking him what kind of suits or uniforms or whatever they'll be wearing in their band, and I distinctly remember him saying they were wearing suits, not like Kiss or anything like that. They're going to wear suits. And I remember asking him, what kind of a band wears suits? And he said, we do. And I thought, well, that was kind of strange. But going back on it now and thinking about it, his name was Rick. They wear black suits. He had black hair and sunglasses. I think, from remembering being 8 years old, that was Ric Ocasek of the Cars. And I believe they were recording Candio at the time, which was one of their first albums they'd done in 1978, 79. And if you look at their pictures in the back of the cover and Ric Ocasek's pictures from the early days, you can see that they're all wearing suits and ties. So that's kind of a coincidence as well. What I just found out recently is Ric Ocasek and Benjamin Orr were from Ohio and Cleveland area, and they moved to Columbus in the early 70s and in that area around there, and then they finally went to, long story short, they went to Boston, where they formed the Cars and everything after being in other bands and stuff that didn't work out too well. But basically they're from the Ohio area, Columbus, which isn't too far from Cincinnati. So another coincidence in itself. I remember distinctly what his face looked like and the clothes he was wearing and stuff like that. And I remember him taking me around the studio, and there was I remember seeing pictures of people that were that recorded there in the past. And I remember seeing a photo of Heart. I remember mentioning Heart and seeing a photo of that on the wall, and Fleetwood Mac and different bands like that. I remember seeing that and being excited. Oh, wow. And I remember him taking me back to the area where the musicians were, where the instruments were, and the drums and guitars and all that stuff, and the microphones, and showing me as he was standing behind the glass, and I was on the other side of the glass, how quiet it was and how soundproof it was, and you couldn't hear a thing. And I remember him explaining that to me and all this stuff. It was pretty amazing, and that's what turned my head as far as music goes, and really being into music, seeing how a recording studio works and seeing how all the process works and everything. And that was one of the biggest memories I had in my life, and one of the things that changed me into wanting to be a part of music as a career, and just taking it my entire life as one of the number one things in my life, because music is so important. Everyone can disagree on everything, and we all are different in the world, but one thing we can agree on is music. And one thing we can't agree on is the emotions of music and how much of an impact it has on this world, and how much of an impact it has on people's lives, how much it has an impact on relationships, friendships, work environments, you name it. Music has an impact on just about everything. It also has an influence in religion. It has an influence in God-like influence, Satan-like influence. It has an influence in just about every area you can think of. Music has also been tainted, but it's also been very angelic, very beautiful. So that's one of the reasons why I got into it. And now, the radio side I got into, let me tell you why I got into the radio side, and then I'm going to show you some pretty cool stuff. I was probably about 8 or 9, 10 maybe, around the time after meeting up at the studio, and I believe Ric Ocasek. We started listening to American Top 40 with Casey Kasem, and was really big into Q102's Mark Sebastian in Ohio and in Cincinnati. And that's one of the things that got me into radio. When I started hearing how awesome Casey Kasem was, and his style of love, his great love for music, and the way he would do things, there's no one that could ever follow or copy him. I don't care what they say about Rick Deeds or whatever. It's not even going to be anywhere near what Casey Kasem is or was. It's just, that was an amazing man. And Mark Sebastian and his antics and his shock jock ways in Ohio, I kind of loved the combination of his shock jock, his funny side, his humor, and Casey Kasem's knowledge of music, and I kind of added those two together. So that's where I started. And let me show you, for those of you who don't know, everybody's going to know who Casey Kasem is, but who Mark Sebastian is. They're both one of my biggest influences in radio. And by the way, I want to mention before I show these videos, credit goes to, I believe, NBC and definitely Channel 12 in Cincinnati. Before anybody complains on YouTube and says, "There's no videos are not his." I know that. It's not mine. They're just videos I'm showing of who the people are, so take it away.
Hello there, Casey at the mic on WBNRI. Around for the next 4 hours with swinging sound with a little girl about
Do you recognize the voice? Well, these are some of Casey's old tapes. To say the least, times have changed.
Happy they tell me you went to a different kind of school, is that right?
Oh, no!
No, I understand that.
I listen to that and I say, why did they keep me? I think I know why, though. I worked hard, and what I lacked in talent, what I lacked in experience, I tried to make up for with hard work. When somebody says, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm not a radio personality, I'm a disc jockey. And I play records. I play music for people to hear from 8 to 80.
Even if you can't quite place the face, everyone knows the voice. Casey Kasem, every weekend counting down the American Top 40.
Our countdown of the 40 most popular songs in America begins in a moment.
Kasem's run as host of American Top 40 began 34 years ago. It ends this weekend.
The #1 song in the USA on
What Dick Clark was to TV pop music, Kasem has been to radio. He originated the countdown format, even though his boss wanted something different.
I said, what would you like me to do? He says, talk about the stars, their records, their songs, the musicians, and so on. He said, when do I start that? We said, well, why don't you consider starting it tonight? Tonight?
Kasem's countdown has always included biographical details, little tidbits about the musicians, and that began sort of by accident.
Wedged in the door of the studio was a big trash barrel, and on top of all of it was who's who in pop music. I looked at those little thumbnail sketches, and I was on my way to doing what I'm doing today, counting them down.
350 radio stations, millions of listeners, and over the years, thousands of long-distance dedications.
I Still Believe by Mariah Carey, a long-distance dedication from Patty to Roger. You're a bit of a voyeur. You're hearing something that someone else is experiencing, and usually it's highly emotional, and the more emotional they become, the more tears come to the eyes of the listener and to the guy who delivers the letter. It was a dream come true. Casey, could you please play Circle of Life? When I do the letters, sometimes it takes me 3, 4, 5 times to read them until we get them exactly right. Every letter has its own feel, and none of them are just by rote.
Spinning records was never what young Casey Kasem, son of Lebanese immigrants, intended as a career.
I didn't want to be a disc jockey. I wanted to be a baseball player and an actor, but not a disc jockey.
But with that voice, no wonder he gravitated to radio. At his Detroit high school, Kasem started his own radio sports show. As a college student, he worked as a character actor on the Lone Ranger radio show. And even in the Army, in Korea, he worked for Armed Forces Radio.
Billboard's #1.
34 years ago, his first show, Three Dog Night, Mama Told Me Not to Come, was #1. This week, it's Hey Ya by Outkast.
Don't try to fight the feeling.
Ah, how music has changed.
Rather than feeling sad about leaving American Top 40, I feel that there's a challenge ahead of me. I'm happy doing what I'm going to be doing, and I'm happy having done what I did. I'd like to share with you something I've learned over the years. Success doesn't happen in a vacuum. You're only as good as the people you work with and the people you work for. I've been lucky. I've worked for and with the very best. Now, one more time, the words I've ended my show with since 1970. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
And I, Mark Sebastian, want to see all of you completely. And oh, yeah, do I mean completely? Oh, yeah.
Radio station you listen to, you are either a fan or a foe of Q102's Mark Sebastian. However, Sebastian, well known for his outrageous antics on the air, is moving on. Beginning in September, he'll be heard on radio station WHTZ in New York. Sebastian has been with WKRQ for the past 9 years. Our Vicky Yatesor asked him if he had any apprehensions about leaving.
The ranges of emotion that I've gone through the past couple of days have been unbelievable. Euphoria, depression, bewilderment. My gosh, what am I doing? Should I make the move when I've already made the decision to do it? I've questioned my mind so many times about this, but I've got to go. It's one of the biggest openings in the history of radio, and I'm not understating that. Why they've picked me, I still don't know, but thank God for it. I can hardly wait.
What do you have to say to those people who you're leaving, the people who've been here and listened to you every night since you've been on? What do you have to say to them?
Can you give me the news hour? I guess not. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
And of course, we wish him all the best.
As you can see, it was because of Casey Kasem and Mark Sebastian's the reason, one of the biggest reasons. Of course, there's been many musicians over the years, or DJs and radio hosts, and of course musicians, and you know, the music you get into and everything else. So around 10 years old, they were listening, my brothers were listening to Casey Kasem all the time, and they would write down the American Top 40 every week, and they'd put it on the Frigidaire or Billboard or wherever in the house, letting everyone know what the #1 song is this week. And you know, we were really into it growing up. So what I did is I decided, you know, one day I said, I got my phone book. Throughout the phone book, I had a slew of 45s. We used to go downstairs when we lived in Northside in Cincinnati, and go across the street or around the corner and buy 45s for $1 or whatever when we had the money. So we had stacks of them and everything. And, you know, 45s were cheap at the record store. So we would play them over and over and basically wear them out. And I'd take a phone book and open it up and act like I was doing commercials, and read through the ads, you know, say, so-and-so's window cleaning, and just act like, you know, I'm a 10-year-old, act like I'm DJing, basically. Now, here's your favorite hits. I wish I had that recorded, but it would have been great for today. But I would read the ad, and I'd say, well, here's a song, and then I'd play the 45, and, you know, I may have recorded it, I don't know, but I ain't got the tapes now. But anyway, so I'd record the 45s and stuff like that. I'd always dreamed of being a radio host or being a DJ one day or doing it. So I had it in the back of my mind. You know, people always told me for years that would never work for you because, you know, you move from one city to another. You're never at one place at one time. You're never, you know, it's just not for you. You'll never be good at it, or you'll never be successful at it. It's just something that isn't for you. But I've never really followed through until one day Irene told me that maybe you should try to go to the school and do it. And I thought, well, you know, I don't have my records anymore. I'm too old, you know, the skeptical, negative things. And she basically talked me into it, and so I did. And I went to American Broadcasting School and got my degree, or whatever you call it there, and went through the school. And ironically, it was a window of opportunity. I just left my job. It was a window of opportunity. And I was one of the last students in the Garland School because they were closing, which is ironic because I've always, even before I met Irene, I've always thought about going to the school, but I never did. Never had the time. I was trying to survive and pay my bills and everything else, so I never really had it. I had it in the back of my mind, but I never really mentioned it to anyone because, you know, they said, well, it's not good for you, it's not a good job for you, there's no money in it. You know, I heard all kinds of stuff, but I decided to do it anyway. And I said, even if I don't, I'll you know, I have it, at least I tried. But I got the degree, and I started my own station online on the internet, which is great that you could do that because, you know, back then you had to have a job in radio to do it. I wish I was a little bit younger because, you know, most radio stations won't hire you unless you're young. But the great thing about it is I got my degree. Here's this here is the police. Every little thing she does is magic. That is one of the 45s that I bought, and I still have. This is one of the 45s that I played when I was 10 years old, acting like I was a DJ. And this one here, Eddie Rabbit, I Love a Rainy Night. As you can see on the top, it says #1 February 1981. So I was 10 or 11. I was 11. I believe my brother wrote that on there when they were doing the American Top 40. And yeah, and I used to play this as well on the 45 record player and act like I'm a DJ, dream about doing it one day. And that's one of them. I have more, but that's just one of the many that I have. So it's kind of cool. So since the 10 years I've been doing radio, paranormal radio shows, music radio shows, you name it, I've been totally into music. As you can see, there's my Guns N' Roses bobbleheads, pop things. Let me show you just a tad what I got down here. These are my stacks of CDs. There are tons of them. These are radio shows that I've done since 2010 or 2008. And they're mixed in with a little bit of other music CDs, but basically these are all the CDs I have. Night Breed Show, audio recordings, things like that. I bought records over the years. Synchronicity, Hall & Oates. One of my favorites I had when I was a kid growing up was Pyromania. I have tons of concert t-shirts. Some of them I just bought in yard sales, but majority of them I bought went to the concert itself. But there's more stacks of CDs there. Let's see if we can find some here. There's my ZZ Top I just went to recently. Here's my Motley Crue Dr. Feelgood shirt. Here's my Queensryche tour shirt from that I believe is 1990. I didn't go to that concert, but I did go to a Queensryche concert, so it's only fitting. I never did get a shirt from that concert, but I did get Iron Maiden. This one here is from the Def Leppard I went to in 94, 93, 94. So that's that. My Journey. I got my Journey shirt. I got my Guns N' Roses, which I just went to the Guns N' Roses concert recently, so that's why I bought the ZZ Tops, because I didn't need it, and I had a Guns N' Roses poster. So here's another one. This one's Faster Pussycat that I bought at the yard sale, 1989. Or no, this is 1990. So I also have a Motley Crue T-shirt from 1987. It's a tour T-shirt, but I bought that at a garage sale. I got a cool MTV shirt that some little girl walked by and asked if that was the kitty shirt, the cat shirt that they have. I said, no, it's MTV, and she asked, what's that? Just shows I'm getting old. Anyway, the old Iron Maiden shirts I have in here. I have this Iron Maiden shirt that I went to in 2000, and the one I went to in 2006, or 2010, I believe. 2017. And I heard they're going to have a good one coming up here pretty soon. So, and by the way, this is my reverse radio shirt of the station I started, for those of you that don't know. This is my DRS 2006. I know it's old and people don't use this anymore, but you know, radio stations used to use it. This is, up here is the streamer. This here is the to run the station. So I click on this. This one up here is night watch, or not night watch. It's Jackalope Radio. So if I want to stream on Jackalope Radio, I have this up here. This is to stream on reverse 96 FM. So what I do is I press play, and it starts streaming. And I come down here and press start, and that's the station that's started up, if you can hear it. Little past Dig Dug thing.
Reverse 96 FM, rocking your past off.
So yeah, that's the station there. I don't want YouTube to go after me because of that. So yeah, and how do I run that? You can do it, that's auto, so you can do automatically when I'm not here. You can see that the songs, different songs, Saxon, Autograph, another liner, and so on and so forth. I can have different carts through music things. I can do it manually, like I do on my radio shows, and whatnot. I do manual stuff that I add. I just add it like that. And, you know, I just go scroll down here and say opener. And openers. And I'll pick an opener and start it up. And then I'll add a song. Let's say something from the 80s. Oingo Boingo, Weird Science. Let's see. Let's go Aerosmith. Oops, that's messed up. Let's go back to 80s. Let's say level 42, something about you, and then when I do the opener, it'll start up the thing. And let's do another opener, because we need to do a short one, and I'll show you how I work it. And then okay, so I'll turn this station off, and I'll show you how I do it so people won't hear me online. So you'll hear the opener going off, like one of my old openers. Grab the microphone. This is how it works. I'm actually living the dream from my 10-year-old days.
Has anything ever happened?
So this is cool.
You couldn't explain that made you feel
Of course, I usually wear the headphones, but I don't have headphones on right now because I'm just showing you how it works basically. And why do I sound like I'm talking like I'm a DJ? I don't know.
The amazing world of the unknown. That is why I won't do two
But
shows.
if you can hear it anyway,
I won't do.
And now we interrupt this station.
I'll show you how it
with the
works
most
in a
serious
second.
seeker of the truth, the pioneer of yet to be discovered.
Oh, you are lost, night.
Founder of the Night Freak Show and the most dangerous man on your side of the lunchroom.
Kind of a dream of mine. Getting to live the dream is just amazing. It's a great feeling, you know? It's a great feeling. And to have people hear it, it's just even better. That's just, you know, extra for me. Good evening and welcome to the Reverse 96 FM with your host, the Ghostgetter. Tonight, we got some great music going on from the 1980s, but first, Level 42, Something About You. One of my favorite songs from the mid-70s or the mid-80s. Up next, we also got Aerosmith and a whole lot more. Stick around. Slapping the bass with the Ghostgetter. So anyway, that's how it works. You know, turn it back off and close it. That's basically how it works. And turn the station back on. And that's that. And this is set on manual, so I'll put it back on manual. Anyway, let me show you something else here. This is all my shows, not every one of them, but this is a lot of shows I've done through the last 4 years. So I have all that saved on my computer. Also have it saved on CD and everything. So I can play those anytime on my DRS, my radio automation system. How it works is you go to down here where it says DRS, open it up. Down here where it's got all the digital data for the DRS that you loaded on their program. You got your digital playlist, your plugins and whatnot, and your cart machines and all that stuff. The cool stuff like that. But basically here, if you want to look at how much audio I got in here, it just goes on forever. Probably talking maybe 3,000-4,000 pieces of audio, anywhere from music to liners to commercials to just whatever. And I have thousands of them in here that I play on my shows. They're just an automated system when I'm off doing my own thing. When I work my other job, I got this. I got a Cool Edit Pro, which is old, but it works for me, and that's why I like it. That's why I record my my shows. Every one of my shows, record everything I was taught to do. Thank you, Mr. Hatch, for showing me. Record every one of my shows and everything. I've collected them since I started. Even the ones when I was at school, I have those too. And I have another one for playing audio files and everything. So I use that during my show too. Videos, play the audio from the videos, Word files, you name it, I have it. You know, that's basically how it's run. I got my boards here, and my mics. Got my other mics when people are doing, when I have guests on the show and things like that, people over. I remember a friend telling me this is where the magic happens, and that's basically, I thought about that for years, that when she said that, and I still do today. Is that where the magic happens? I said, yes it is. But anyway, yeah, I look back and I every time I do my radio shows and my music shows, I look at these, you know, these records, and I think about it, how I live in a dream, and it's all come true for me. And even though I may not be in corporate radio, I may never get paid for it, I'm living a dream. And you know, as long as you do what you love, that's all that makes a difference. It's never work. If you do what you love, you can do it. I've never thought being homeless, sleeping in my car, going through all kinds of stuff, fighting to stay away from that life, fighting to stay on my feet, fighting to, you know, constantly going through adversity and determination and persistence and all that stuff. You can do it. You can do anything you want to do, and that's for those out there, the people when looking at this video that don't think they'll ever do anything with their life, or don't think they'll ever have a chance to do anything with their life. You can do what you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. Don't let everybody tell you that you can't, because you can. And don't let anybody tell you that you're not good enough, or you won't get paid enough, or it's not the job for you, because it is. And I'm a I'm a messy, but I'm prime example of doing it because I'm doing what I love. I got to see some amazing places. That's a pen I got from Mississippi, the Grammy Awards Museum. Listen to it 24 hours a day. It's going back to the past the way the radio should be. The way the radio was back in the day when it was, cool, and you had your Casey Kasems and your Mark Sebastians and things like that, when radio was just great. Today, even though it's corporate, they tell you what you can and can't play, and it doesn't seem fun anymore, not like it used to be. But I'm hoping that other people will come and listen and check it out, because no prejudices, no arguments, no issues, no complaints about this and that and this and that. It's just great music, going into past projects and news reports from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and it's just the idea is just to remind you, oh yeah, I remember that, and go, oh crap, I forgot all about that, and take you back to a place where you would sit at night with your friends out cruising strip, listening to this music or listening to the radio at home, while you're just talking, or while you're going to sleep at night, or when you're with your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever in the car, and you remember these days when you would make fun of these commercials or talk about these movies, or remember when you had your first date and you went to go see these movies. That's what I tried to do. I even got a piece of audio over here about a drive-in theater. So I got a lot of cool stuff like that. So especially movie trailers from way back when. So check it out, Verse 96 FM. Google it and you'll find it there. So thanks for watching again. And fly to the angels.